Fear grows not from events themselves, but from the judgments the mind attaches to them. What the senses present is often simple. What the mind adds is what overwhelms. Hardship, uncertainty, danger, these arise for every person. Yet only some are shaken to their core, while others remain steady. The difference lies in how fear is understood. Most treat fear as an external force, something powerful and uncontrollable, looming like a shadow that follows every step. But fear is far smaller than it appears. It is not a monster, but a misunderstanding, an illusion created when the mind races ahead of truth. To master fear, one must first see it clearly. For when fear is stripped of exaggeration, separated from imagination, and examined with reason, it loses its weight. What once felt unbearable becomes merely difficult. What once felt certain becomes merely possible. Through discipline and examination, fear becomes something that can be met head-on. With that purpose, here is the formula for handling fear with steadiness and clarity. Step 1. Reduce the fear to its true size. Fear becomes powerful only when permitted to grow beyond its natural shape. It feeds on exaggeration, on imagined outcomes, and on the mind's tendency to leap from a single uncertainty to 1,000 dreadful possibilities. A small concern becomes a looming threat. A simple challenge becomes a crushing burden. A minor setback transforms into a prophecy of ruin. Yet in truth, the object of fear is often far smaller than the picture the mind paints. The senses present what is real. Fear presents what is invented. And so the first step in mastering fear is to force it back into its actual boundaries. Begin by removing the false layers. Remove the "what if this becomes worse?" Remove the "what if everything falls apart?" Remove the dramatized story the mind repeats until it feels true. What remains is a clean, unembellished fact, a situation that may be difficult, but is rarely unbearable. A task feared becomes only a task. A confrontation feared becomes only a conversation. A future feared becomes only a possibility. When fear is described plainly, without emotional decoration, its power dissolves. What once terrified becomes something manageable, sometimes even insignificant. The mind then sees clearly that it was not the situation itself that caused distress, but the imagination surrounding it. Fear grows in the shadows of exaggeration, but when held still under the light of reason, it becomes small, finite, and solvable. To handle fear, shrink it first. Call it by its real name, not the name the imagination has given it. For once fear is reduced to its true size, courage does not need to be summoned. It appears naturally, because the threat no longer deserves trembling. Step 2. Identify what is within your control. Fear often becomes overwhelming because the mind attempts to grasp what does not belong to it. It reaches into the future, into the thoughts of others, into outcomes shaped by chance, fortune, or forces far beyond human influence. When the mind tries to command what lies outside its domain, it exhausts itself and stirs fear into a frenzy. To weaken fear, the next step is separation, drawing a clear line between what depends on one's own actions and what unfolds independently of them. This distinction is a source of immense strength, for nothing burdens the spirit more than trying to govern what cannot be governed. Begin with careful observation. Consider every detail of the feared situation and divide it into 2 small realms, the realm of control. This realm contains very little, yet it contains the most important things, the actions that can be taken, the preparation that can be made, the effort that can be exerted, the words chosen, the attitude maintained, the way the event is interpreted, all these lie within the self. They are firm ground, steady and reachable. Fear loses its grip when attention settles here, because this realm responds to discipline, clarity, and deliberate choice. The realm beyond control. This realm is vast, stretching far beyond the self, the final outcome of events, the opinions and reactions of others, the timing of life's unfolding, the actions of strangers, accidents, fortune, and external circumstances. Nothing in this realm can be commanded. To cling to it is to invite constant disappointment. To fear it is to fear shadows. A mind weighed down by what it cannot change becomes restless, anxious, and overwhelmed. Fear thrives when everything feels equally fragile. But once the two realms are divided, clarity emerges. If something lies outside control, it cannot rightly be feared, because its arrival or avoidance never depended on the self. And if something lies within control, it should not be feared, because it can be addressed through deliberate action. Thus fear is cornered. What cannot be changed should not disturb the soul. What can be changed should be handled with calm resolve. Nothing remains for fear to cling to. When attention returns again and again to the small realm of control, the mind becomes anchored. Instead of spiraling into imagined futures, it settles into purposeful action. Instead of trembling before possibilities, it prepares for realities. This is how fear is weakened, not by denial nor by blind courage, but by choosing to engage only with what can be shaped through one's own will. A mind disciplined in this way becomes unshakable, for no external force can govern what is rooted firmly in clarity and effort. Step 3. Accept the worst, then act toward the best. Fear holds its greatest power through uncertainty. The mind trembles, not because a hardship has arrived, but because it might arrive. It builds a silent tension, a dread of the unknown, a fear of possibilities that have not yet taken form. To break this tension, the Stoic approach is direct. Face the worst. Imaginatively accept it fully and remove its power before it even comes. Fear loses its weapon when the soul calmly acknowledges, even if the worst happens, endurance is possible. Acceptance is not surrender. Acceptance is preparation. When a feared outcome is examined honestly, without panic, it often becomes far less terrifying than the mind imagined. What once felt unbearable becomes a difficulty, painful, inconvenient, disruptive, but still within the range of human endurance. The mind may whisper, "This would destroy everything," but upon closer inspection, destruction dissolves into discomfort. Chaos dissolves into challenge. The end becomes a transition. Fear depends on the illusion that the worst is unendurable. Once accepted, fear no longer has anything to bargain with. A soul wrestling with "what if" cannot act steadily. A soul that has already examined the worst remains clear and composed. This clarity allows attention to shift toward preparation, strategy, and effort, toward the steps that lead to the best possible outcome. Worry cannot coexist with readiness. Once the worst is accepted, the mind becomes free to pursue what is good with full strength. After acceptance, the mind no longer behaves like prey. Instead of reacting, it prepares, strengthens what must be strengthened, gathers what must be gathered, plans what must be planned, endures what must be endured, not frantically, not fearfully, but with the calm of one who has already disarmed the unknown. Fear needs two things to survive: an exaggerated threat, a belief that the self cannot withstand it. Step 1 destroys the exaggeration. Step 3 destroys the belief in fragility. When the soul sees that even the harshest outcome can be met with steady resolve, fear collapses. What remains is strength, clarity, and readiness. Once acceptance is achieved, the work begins. Not with trembling, but with discipline. The mind shifts from anxiety to action, from dread to direction. The focus is no longer on avoiding misfortune at all costs, but on using skill, courage, and intelligence to shape the best possible result. A soul that has already embraced the worst walks calmly toward the future. Such a soul cannot be broken, because it has already met the breaking point and remained standing. Step 4. Remember your inner strength. Fear often rises when the mind forgets its own resilience. The body may tremble, the heart may race, and confidence may fade. But beneath all of these physical reactions rests a deeper truth. Human beings possess a strength far greater than fear admits. Every hardship endured, every wound healed, every obstacle overcome, serves as silent proof of this strength. Yet fear clouds memory. It convinces the mind that past endurance does not guarantee future endurance. It whispers that the next challenge will be different, heavier, impossible. Such thoughts must be challenged, not with boastfulness or empty encouragement, but with a quiet recalling of all that has already been survived. The mind forgets, but the soul remembers. The soul has withstood loss, uncertainty, pressure, disappointment, illness, conflict, and countless moments that once felt unbearable. Yet here it remains, living, learning, enduring. Fear predicts collapse, but history shows endurance. Fear claims weakness, but experience reveals strength. Fear blinds the mind to its own evidence, and so that evidence must be brought back into view. Strength comes from within, not from circumstance. No external event, fortune, disaster, success, misfortune, possesses the power to define a person's spirit. What shapes the soul is its response. A difficult situation does not decide whether one stands or falls. The inner command does. Fear tries to direct the soul outward, toward everything that feels threatening. But wisdom directs the soul inward, toward the well of strength that has carried it through every previous storm. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the decision that fear does not deserve control. It is the steady recognition that fear may be felt, but it will not dictate action. Courage acknowledges vulnerability, yet moves forward anyway, guided not by panic, but by principle, clarity, and self-trust. When fear rises, the mind must repeat a simple truth. What confronts the soul is not greater than the strength within it. External forces may disrupt plans, reshape paths, even bring pain, but they cannot diminish the inner fortress unless invited to do so. The strength that has carried the soul this far has not vanished. It remains ready, waiting to be used. Fear thrives where self-trust is absent. When the mind remembers its resilience, fear loses its authority. It no longer dictates the narrative. It no longer decides what is possible. A soul aware of its strength cannot be persuaded by fear's illusions. It stands firm, even when the world shifts, because it knows its own capacity to endure, adapt, and rise again. With this final step, fear is met with its true opponent, not denial, not bravado, but quiet inner power. A power that has always been there. These teachings grow clearer when applied to the fears faced in daily life. Here is how each type of fear appears when examined through a Stoic lens. Consider the fear of failure. Failure is often imagined as a collapse, a permanent mark, a ruin. Yet it is only an outcome that did not meet expectation. Reduce the fear to its true size. Observe failure without dramatic language. It is not destruction, it is a result. Identify what is within control. Effort, preparation, honesty, and skill belong to the self. The final result belongs to fortune. Accept the worst. If the outcome disappoints, it becomes a lesson, not a sentence. Remember inner strength. The soul has met difficulties before and risen. It will do so again. Now consider the fear of being judged. Many suffer more from the imagined thoughts of others than from any real injury. Reduce the fear to its true size. Most judgment is fleeting, shallow, and forgotten by those who give it. Identify what is within control. Conduct, truthfulness, and dignity are one's own. The opinions of others belong to them. Accept the worst. Even harsh judgment cannot touch the inner self unless welcomed. Remember inner strength. A steady character stands taller than the shifting opinions of crowds. Reflect also on the fear of uncertain futures. Fear enlarges the unknown until it feels unbearable. Reduce the fear to its true size. The future is not a threat, it is only unwritten. Identify what is within control. Today's actions, today's efforts, today's discipline. Accept the worst. If the path changes, endurance and adaptation remain possible. Remember inner strength. The soul has walked through uncertainty many times. It can walk again. Consider the fear of difficult conversation. The mind turns a simple exchange into a battlefield before a single word is spoken. Reduce the fear to its true size. A conversation is only the meeting of two voices, not conflict by nature. Identify what is within control. Calmness, clarity, sincerity. Another's reaction is their responsibility. Accept the worst. If tension arises, it is merely discomfort, not destruction. Remember inner strength. Truth spoken with steadiness has always served well. Observe the fear of change. Change appears frightening because it removes what is familiar, not because it brings harm. Reduce the fear to its true size. Change is simply movement in nature, neither enemy nor ally. Identify what is within control. One's response, one's flexibility, one's willingness to adapt. Accept the worst. If the new situation is difficult, difficulty strengthens the soul. Remember inner strength. Transformation has been endured before. Endurance remains. Lastly, reflect on the fear of loss. This fear strikes the deepest because it touches what the heart cherishes. Reduce the fear to its true size. Loss is part of nature's rhythm, painful but not unnatural. Identify what is within control. Gratitude, presence, love in the moment. The continuation of anything lies outside the self. Accept the worst. If loss must come, grief will be heavy, but the soul is built to endure it. Remember inner strength. Healing is part of human nature, just as loss is. Fear loses its power the moment it is understood. It thrives on confusion, exaggeration, and the restless habit of imagining what has not yet happened. But once fear is examined through reason, it becomes something far smaller than it first appeared. By reducing fear to its true size, the mind sees clearly. By separating what is within control from what is not, the mind becomes anchored. By accepting the worst that could come, fear is stripped of its final threat. And by remembering the strength already proven through past endurance, the soul regains its confidence. This is the Stoic way. Not to run from fear, not to suppress it, and not to be ashamed of feeling it, but to face it with clarity, discipline, and acceptance. No person is expected to be without fear, but every person is capable of meeting fear with steadiness. What troubles the mind is never the event itself, but the judgment formed about it. When judgment is reshaped, the threat dissolves. Fear will visit again, as it visits all who live. Yet it will not rule. For the soul that knows how to question fear, how to reduce it, how to accept its possibilities, and how to trust its own strength, such a soul cannot be shaken. It remains calm even in uncertainty, composed even in hardship, and unbroken even when the world shifts around it. This is the freedom the Stoic path offers. Not a life without challenges, but a life where challenges no longer terrify, because the mind stands firm and the spirit remains its own master.